Chosen one, pause for a moment. Something is shifting around you, and you can feel it. It is subtle, almost invisible, yet undeniable. The conversations feel different. The silence feels heavier. The doors that used to open easily now hesitate. And the ones that closed in your face, they do not hurt the same anymore. You have no idea what's coming next, and that is exactly the point. Because the final step before elevation never looks like elevation. It looks like confusion. It looks like isolation. It looks like delay. It feels like being stretched beyond what you thought you could handle. But let me tell you something powerful. In Scripture, before Joseph stepped into the palace, he was in the prison. Before David wore the crown, he was hiding in caves. Before Jesus Christ rose in glory, he walked through rejection and the cross. The pattern is consistent. The final step is never comfortable. Chosen one, what you are experiencing right now is not random. It is not punishment. It is positioning. Heaven does not prepare ordinary people this way. Only the marked ones feel this kind of pressure before promotion. You think you are losing things, but you are shedding weight. You think people are walking away, but you are being separated. You think nothing is happening, but everything is aligning. And here is what makes this moment critical. Many chosen ones quit at the final step because it feels the most uncertain. It feels like standing at the edge of something you cannot see. God will not always show you the whole staircase. Sometimes he only reveals the next step. If this message is speaking directly to your spirit, take a second right now and subscribe. You are not here by accident. This channel exists to strengthen the chosen ones who feel alone in their calling. And if you feel led to support this message so it reaches more chosen ones around the world, consider using the Super Thanks feature below. Your support helps this word go further than you can imagine. Now listen closely. The final step is not about external change first. It is about internal transformation. God does not elevate the same version of you that entered the wilderness. He refines you in the wilderness. This is why your patience has been tested. This is why your faith has been stretched. This is why your circle has become smaller. You are being upgraded in private. And the reason you cannot see what is coming next is because if you saw it too early, you might try to control it. You might rush it. You might tell the wrong people. You might move before the timing is perfect. So God hides the outcome while developing the capacity. Chosen one, you are not behind. You are on the brink. What feels like an ending is actually a transition. What feels like silence is strategic. What feels like pressure is preparation. This is the final step. Chosen one, let's go deeper. Right now, if you are honest, it may not feel like a breakthrough season. It may feel like things are unraveling. Plans you carefully built are shifting. People you trusted are acting distant. Opportunities that once seemed certain now feel uncertain. It feels unstable. And that instability can shake you if you do not understand what is really happening. Here is the spiritual truth most people miss. Before God builds something greater, he dismantles what cannot go with you. Look at the pattern again. When Joseph received the dream, his life did not immediately improve. It intensified. Betrayal came, the pit came, slavery came, prison came. If someone had looked at his life in the middle of that process, they would have said, everything is falling apart. But it was not falling apart. It was falling into alignment. The same thing happened with Job. In one season, he lost possessions, status, and relationships. From the outside, it looked like devastation, yet in the spiritual realm, it was a test that revealed the depth of his faith and led to restoration. Beyond what he previously held. Chosen one, the final step often feels like loss because it removes the illusions you were leaning on. You may have leaned on certain people for validation. You may have leaned on certain routines for security. You may have leaned on a specific outcome as your only vision of success. And now those supports feel shaky. But understand this, God will not allow you to enter a higher calling while being dependent on lower structures. The shaking is intentional. There is a passage that speaks of everything that can be shaken being shaken, so that what cannot be shaken will remain. This is not destruction for destruction's sake. It is refinement. It is separation between temporary and eternal. Chosen one, when everything stable begins to shift, your true foundation is revealed. Are you anchored in approval? Are you anchored in comfort? Or are you anchored in calling? The final step strips away the false anchors. That is why it feels lonely. That is why it feels confusing. That is why it feels like the ground is moving beneath you. But here is the powerful part. When God removes what is familiar, He is making room for what is ordained. If the old doors stayed open, you would never walk toward the new ones. If the old identity stayed intact, you would never step into the greater version of yourself. If the old circles stayed comfortable, you would never develop spiritual strength. Chosen one, what is leaving your life right now is not proof that you are abandoned. It is proof that you are advancing. The final step forces you to trust without evidence. It forces you to believe without confirmation. It forces you to stand still when your instincts want to run back to what was predictable. And this is where many turn back, because walking by faith feels risky. But you were never called to live a predictable life. You were called to live a purposeful one. Chosen one, this part is not easy. The final step often comes with a separation that feels deeply personal. It is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it happens quietly. Conversations become shorter. Invitations stop coming. The connection that once felt natural now feels forced. And you start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Most of the time you did not. You are simply outgrowing spaces that were only meant for a previous version of you. When God prepares someone for a higher assignment, He also adjusts their environment. Not everyone who walked with you in your preparation season can walk with you in your elevation season. Look at Abraham. He was called to leave his father's house, his country, and everything familiar. The instruction was clear. Separation came before promise. The blessing required distance from the old environment. Or consider Elijah when he was told to go to the brook Cherith during the drought. He had to leave the public eye. He had to be sustained in isolation. The separation was not rejection. It was protection and preparation. Chosen one, you are experiencing a divine narrowing. Your circle may be smaller. Your support may feel thinner. Your path may feel solitary. But this narrowing is strategic. God reduces distractions before He increases responsibility. The silent separation hurts because you care. You love deeply. You are loyal. And chosen ones often have big hearts. But elevation requires clarity. And clarity sometimes comes through distance. Some people were assigned to your journey for a chapter, not the whole book. If they stayed, they would misunderstand your transformation. If they stayed, they might speak doubt into your vision. If they stayed, they might try to pull you back into who you used to be. So instead of dramatic exits, there is gradual fading, and it feels confusing. But listen carefully. When Jesus prepared for His most critical moments, even He experienced narrowing. In the garden, many disciples were nearby, but only a few came closer. And even then, they could not fully grasp the weight of what was happening. Sometimes your calling isolates you in ways people cannot understand. Chosen one, do not mistake separation for failure. You are not being excluded. You are being refined. There are rooms ahead that require a different level of spiritual maturity. There are decisions ahead that require sharper discernment. There are blessings ahead that cannot be managed by the same mindset you had before. And the only way to grow into that level is through moments where you stand alone with God. This is where your confidence stops coming from applause. This is where your faith stops depending on agreement. This is where your obedience becomes personal. Yes, it is uncomfortable. Yes, it can feel lonely. But the final step always involves pruning. And pruning is not punishment. It is preparation for greater fruit. Chosen one, if you have noticed that the real battle lately has not been external but internal, this section is for you. It is not just people shifting. It is not just circumstances changing. It is your mind. One moment you feel confident, certain that something greater is ahead. The next moment, doubt whispers quietly, asking, what if nothing changes? What if you misunderstood the signs? What if you are just imagining all of this? This internal tension is not random. The final step always triggers an inner confrontation. Before elevation becomes visible, transformation becomes internal. And transformation is rarely comfortable. It feels like pressure. It feels like stretching. It feels like wrestling with thoughts you thought you had already conquered. Remember when Jacob wrestled through the night before stepping into his new identity? He entered that moment as Jacob, carrying fear and insecurity about facing his past. But he left marked and renamed. The struggle came before the shift. That is not a coincidence. Chosen one, you are wrestling with the last fragments of your old identity. The part of you that fears rejection. The part of you that doubts your capacity. The part of you that wants reassurance before obedience. The final step demands that those fragments be confronted. This is why your thoughts feel louder. This is why your emotions feel amplified. This is why old memories may be resurfacing. It is not regression. It is exposure. God cannot elevate what you are unwilling to examine. So he allows the hidden insecurities to rise to the surface, not to shame you, but to heal you. Look at Moses. When he was called to lead, his first response was not bold confidence. It was hesitation. "Who am I?" he asked. "What if they do not believe me?" The internal resistance surfaced before the public assignment unfolded. Your doubts do not disqualify you. They reveal where growth is still happening. The enemy often attacks hardest at the final step, not because he has power over your destiny, but because he senses transition. If he can convince you to shrink back, to second guess, to delay obedience, he can postpone what is already aligned for you. But here is the deeper truth. An intensified battle is a sign of proximity. You do not fight this hard for something small. You do not feel this resistance before something ordinary. You do not experience this level of inner tension unless you are standing close to something significant. Chosen one, the breakthrough you are praying for requires a stronger version of you. Not a louder version, not a more visible version, a steadier version. One who trusts even when emotions fluctuate. One who moves forward even when certainty is incomplete. One who chooses faith over fear repeatedly. The final step reshapes your internal foundation so that when the external blessing arrives, you can sustain it. You are not breaking. You are being fortified. Chosen one, let's talk about the silence. Because if you are in the final step, you have felt it. Prayers that once felt vibrant now feel quiet. Confirmation that once came quickly now seems delayed. You are seeking direction, and heaven feels still, and the silence can be unsettling. You start wondering, did I miss something? Did I take a wrong turn? Why does it feel like God stepped back right when I need clarity the most? But what if the silence is not distance? What if it is trust? There are moments in Scripture when silence preceded the greatest moves. Think about the period before the ministry of Jesus Christ began publicly. For years there was no recorded miracle, no public teaching, no visible display of divine power, just preparation. Or consider the years David spent anointed but not yet crowned. He knew he was chosen. The oil had already been poured over his head, yet the throne did not come immediately. There were seasons of obscurity, of waiting, of silence. The silence did not cancel the promise. It matured it. Chosen one, silence is often the space where God watches what you will do, without constant reassurance. Will you continue? Will you stay disciplined? Will you trust what he said before, even when he is not repeating it every day? The final step removes dependency on signs. You are being transitioned from needing constant confirmation to walking in conviction. There is a difference. Confirmation comforts you. Conviction anchors you. In earlier seasons, you may have needed repeated reminders. Small miracles, open doors, clear signals, but now the silence is teaching you to move from what you feel to what you know, and that knowledge is deeper than emotion. Silence also protects the process. If God revealed everything right now, you might speak too soon. You might celebrate prematurely. You might invite opinions into something that is still forming. Silence keeps the assignment sacred. It shields your next level from interference. It teaches you intimacy over information. Chosen one, when it feels quiet, do not assume absence. Assume development. Seeds grow underground before they break the surface. Roots strengthen in darkness before branches expand in the light. The unseen work is often the most critical. This is the stage where your character deepens. This is the stage where patience solidifies. This is the stage where obedience becomes consistent, not emotional. And here is something powerful to remember. If God trusted you with the promise, he will trust you with the process. The silence is not punishment. It is proof that you are no longer a beginner in faith. You are being treated like someone who can handle weight without constant explanation. The final step requires stability in quiet seasons, because where you are going, noise will increase. Visibility will increase. Responsibility will increase. So before that happens, you must master stillness. Chosen one, this is the part almost nobody recognizes. Right before the breakthrough, right before the open door, right before the shift you have been sensing. There is always a test, and it does not look dramatic. It looks ordinary. It looks like one more opportunity to react the old way, one more chance to prove you have changed. One more moment where nobody is watching except God. The final step is not just about endurance. It is about integrity. Throughout Scripture, elevation was always preceded by a test of character. Think about Joseph again. Before he stood before Pharaoh, he faced a private test in Potiphar's house. No crowd, no applause, just a decision. Compromise for temporary comfort, or remain faithful and risk everything. That hidden test shaped his future authority. Or consider David in the cave when King Saul was vulnerable. David had the chance to remove the obstacle to his throne with his own hands. It would have been easy, logical, justifiable, but he chose restraint. That decision proved he was ready for the crown. Chosen one, your hidden test may not look biblical in scale, but it carries the same weight. It might be how you respond to someone who disrespects you. It might be whether you stay disciplined when motivation fades. It might be choosing honesty when cutting corners would benefit you. It might be forgiving when revenge feels satisfying. The test is simple in appearance, but massive in consequence, because it reveals whether you are truly transformed or just temporarily inspired. God does not elevate talent alone. He elevates trustworthiness. The final step exposes whether you can carry what you have been praying for. If you are asking for influence, can you handle criticism? If you are asking for increase, can you manage responsibility? If you are asking for visibility, can you remain humble? The hidden test answers these questions quietly, and here is what makes it challenging. The enemy will often provoke you during this stage. He will send distractions. He will send frustration. He will send opportunities that look good but are slightly misaligned, not to destroy you, but to see if you will delay your destiny yourself. Chosen one, this is not the time to move impulsively. This is the time to move intentionally. The final step is sensitive. One reaction can extend the cycle. One emotional decision can delay what is already aligned. That is why self-control becomes crucial now. But do not misunderstand this. You are not being set up to fail. You are being positioned to pass. And the fact that you are aware, that you are discerning the shift, that you are even listening to messages like this, means you are not asleep in this season. You are alert. So when the test comes, and it will come, remember this. Respond as the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. Chosen one, this is the moment everything has been building toward. After the silence, after the separation, after the inner battle, after the hidden test, there is a shift. And here is what most people misunderstand. The shift is not always loud. Sometimes it begins quietly. It begins with clarity. Suddenly, decisions that once confused you become simple. The overthinking stops. The fear loses its grip. You may not see the full picture yet, but you feel steady, grounded, certain, in a way that does not require external validation. That inner steadiness is the first sign that you passed. When Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream, it looked sudden to everyone watching. One day he was in prison. The next day he was in the palace. But what people did not see were the years of refinement that made him ready in that exact moment. When opportunity met preparation, the door opened instantly. Chosen one, when you pass the test, timing accelerates. Doors that resisted you before will begin to respond differently. Conversations will align. The right connections will feel natural instead of forced. What once felt like striving will feel like flow, not because life becomes easy, but because you are aligned. The final step aligns your character with your calling. And when alignment happens, momentum follows. Think about Esther. Before she stepped into her defining moment, she endured preparation, discipline, and silence. But when the time came to speak before the king, everything hinged on that one courageous decision. She was ready. And readiness changes everything. Chosen one, what is coming next is not random blessing. It is strategic placement. You are not just being elevated for comfort. You are being elevated for impact. That is why the preparation was intense. That is why the isolation was necessary. That is why the inner battle had to be won. Because what is ahead requires spiritual weight. Here is something powerful to understand. When you pass the test, confidence replaces anxiety. Not arrogance, not pride, but quiet confidence. The kind that does not need to prove itself. The kind that knows who it is and whose it is. The final step transforms insecurity into authority. And authority does not beg for attention. It carries presence. You will notice a difference in how people respond to you. Not because you are trying harder, but because you are standing differently. Your energy shifts. your boundaries strengthen, your discernment sharpens. The version of you stepping into this next season is not desperate. It is disciplined, not fearful, but focused. And here is the most exciting part. The breakthrough you imagined? It may be smaller than what is actually aligned for you, because God's plans consistently exceed human expectations. Chosen one, this is where maturity matters most, because stepping into what is coming next is one thing, sustaining it is another. You have made it through the pressure, you endured the silence, you passed the hidden test. The shift has begun. But the final step is not just about arrival, it is about stewardship. Many people pray for elevation, few prepare to maintain it. Look at Solomon. He began his reign with wisdom, humility, and divine favor. He asked for understanding rather than riches, and it pleased God. But later, subtle compromises accumulated. Influence expanded, but discipline weakened. The elevation was real. So was the responsibility. Chosen one, what is coming next in your life will require consistency. You cannot step into a higher level with the same casual mindset. The habits that carried you through survival must now evolve into habits that sustain leadership. Here is the first key. Guard your humility. When doors open and recognition increases, it becomes easy to subtly believe it was your strength alone. But remember the caves, remember the silence, remember the nights when only God knew your tears. Gratitude protects elevation. Second, guard your circle. Just because new people enter your life does not mean everyone gains access to your inner space. Discernment must increase as visibility increases. Not everyone who applauds you understands you. Keep your core anchored in truth, not flattery. Third, guard your disciplines. The prayer life that sustained you in obscurity must not disappear in visibility. The self-control you practiced during testing must not relax during success. The final step is not the end of dependence on God. It is the beginning of deeper partnership. Think about Peter. Before he became a bold leader, he had to confront his impulsiveness. After restoration, he carried himself differently. The fire was still there, but it was refined. Passion anchored in wisdom becomes powerful. Chosen one, do not sabotage what you prayed for by abandoning the very practices that prepared you. Stay grounded. Stay teachable. Stay aligned. Another critical truth is this: elevation will attract both favor and opposition. Do not be surprised by resistance. New levels bring new pressures. But you are not the same person who entered the wilderness. You are stronger, sharper, more aware. Respond with steadiness. Remember, authority is quiet. It does not need to announce itself. It walks in alignment. And finally, keep your heart focused on purpose, not applause. If you chase validation, you will drift. If you stay anchored in assignment, you will endure. Chosen one, you truly have no idea what is coming next. But now you understand something deeper. It is not coming to overwhelm you. It is coming because you are ready. The final step was never about proving yourself to others. It was about becoming the version of you that can carry what is ordained. So walk forward with confidence, move with intention, stay close to God, and let what has been prepared for you unfold at the right time. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your next level.